The late afternoon sun was fading as Maya stood near the shopping plaza, clutching her backpack. The after-school crowd had already thinned out, and only a few people were moving between stores. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, glancing at her phone to check the time. Her mom had promised to pick her up after a meeting, and Maya knew she would be there soon. Still, standing alone sometimes made her uneasy, especially when strangers passed by with curious looks. Maya was used to waiting. Her mother's work often kept her busy, and patience was something Maya had learned to practice. She leaned against a short wall near the parking lot, scrolling through her phone to distract herself. The sound of laughter from a group of teenagers nearby echoed faintly, and she tried to focus on a game on her screen instead. That was when she noticed a patrol car slowing down as it turned into the plaza. The vehicle pulled into a parking spot not too far from where she stood. Two uniformed police officers stepped out, talking casually to each other at first. Then, after a quick glance around, one of them pointed in her direction. Maya's stomach tightened. She wasn't doing anything wrong, but she knew sometimes that didn't matter. The officers walked over, their steps firm and deliberate. Maya straightened, slipping her phone into her pocket. She didn't want to appear rude or suspicious. "Hey there," one of the officers said, his tone light but edged with authority. "What are you doing out here all by yourself?" Maya swallowed and tried to keep her voice steady. "I'm just waiting for my mom. She's picking me up." The officer exchanged a look with his partner, who folded his arms across his chest. "Waiting for your mom, huh? Which store is she in?" "She's not here yet," Maya explained quickly. "She's coming from work." The officers didn't seem satisfied. Their eyes scanned her backpack, then the parking lot. Maya could feel their suspicion hanging in the air, even though she had done nothing wrong. "How old are you?" the taller officer asked. 14, Maya answered. "Got any ID?" Maya shook her head nervously. She didn't carry anything beyond her school ID, which was tucked deep inside her bag. She hadn't thought it would matter. The officers shared another glance, and the shorter one chuckled softly. "So, you're just standing out here all alone with no ID, waiting for someone who's not even here yet?" Maya felt her face grow warm. She didn't like the way they were looking at her, as if her words were hard to believe. She tried again, her voice a little firmer this time. "Yes. My mom will be here soon. She told me to wait here." The taller officer tilted his head, studying her. "And what does your mom do?" Maya hesitated. She knew this answer might surprise them, but she had never been ashamed of the truth. With a small breath, she said, "She's a general. In the army." For a moment, there was silence. Then both officers burst into laughter. The sound stung Maya's ears. "A general," the shorter officer said between chuckles. "Kid, come on. You expect us to believe that?" "It's true," Maya insisted, though her voice was softer now. "She really is." "Yeah, sure," the taller officer said, smirking. "And I'm the President of the United States." The two laughed again, clearly amused at what they thought was a wild claim. Maya's hands clenched at her sides. She hadn't meant it as a joke, but now she felt as though she was being laughed at for simply speaking the truth. She wished her mom's car would appear at that very moment, just to prove them wrong. Instead, she was stuck in the uncomfortable silence that followed their laughter. The officers continued to look at her, one shaking his head as though she had told the funniest story of the day. "Listen," the shorter officer finally said, trying to compose himself, "you don't have to make up stories. If your mom's really coming, we'll wait. But you don't have to go around saying stuff like that." Maya opened her mouth to respond but stopped. She could see it in their eyes. They had already decided she was lying. No matter what she said, they wouldn't believe her. Her heart pounded with a mix of frustration and fear. She wasn't scared of her mother's position, but she was scared of being misunderstood. She wondered why they didn't just wait and see instead of mocking her. As she stood there, shifting uncomfortably under their gaze, Maya tried to remind herself of what her mom always said: speak the truth, even when people don't believe you. It was hard, though, when the truth was treated like a joke. The taller officer leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice as if speaking to a child who didn't know better. Sweetheart, generals don't usually drive around picking up kids from the mall. You sure you're not making that up? Maya forced herself to meet his eyes, though her voice trembled. I'm not making it up. She's my mom. She's a general. The officers chuckled again, shaking their heads as if amused by her determination. To them, it was just a story. To Maya, it was her reality. She shifted her backpack and glanced toward the road, silently praying that the familiar black SUV would appear soon. Her mom had promised she would be there. For now, all Maya could do was stand her ground, even while being mocked for the truth she carried so proudly. And so she waited, patient, nervous, but unwilling to take back her words. The laughter from the officers still echoed in Maya's ears, even after they stopped. She stood there, hugging her backpack straps tightly, wishing she could disappear. Their mocking smiles made her feel smaller than ever, like her words carried no weight at all. She wanted to shout at them, to make them understand she wasn't lying, but something held her back. It wasn't fear exactly, it was the knowledge that they weren't listening. The shorter officer leaned on the hood of the patrol car, shaking his head in amusement. A general, he muttered, still chuckling. That's a new one. His partner grinned, adding, these kids, always making things up. Next she'll say her dad's the mayor. Maya felt her face burn. She hated being talked about as though she wasn't standing right there. But she stood firm, her eyes fixed on the road, hoping to spot her mom's SUV. The minutes ticked by slowly, and the officer's disbelief only grew stronger. The taller officer finally spoke again, his tone sharper than before. Look, kid. You can't just stand here making things up. If you're waiting for your mom, that's fine, but don't lie to us. I'm not lying, Maya said quietly, but firmly. Her voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. The shorter officer laughed again, this time louder. Not lying? Come on. Do you even know what a general is? That's like, top of the top. No way some 14-year-old's mom is running the army. Maya's lips pressed into a thin line. She did know what a general was. She'd grown up seeing the hard work, the long nights, the sacrifices her mother made for the country. She had seen the rows of medals, the ceremonies, the respectful salutes from soldiers. She knew it better than anyone. Yet here she was, being mocked for saying the truth. The taller officer crossed his arms. You know what? Maybe we should just call your mom ourselves. If she's really this big general you're talking about, she won't mind answering. Maya quickly shook her head, her heart racing. She's busy. She's on her way. Please just wait. The shorter officer raised his eyebrows, smirking. Busy saving the world, huh? The two laughed again, but their laughter didn't feel light anymore. It felt heavy, pressing down on Maya like a weight. She wanted to pull out her phone and text her mom again, but she was afraid they'd think she was stalling. She remembered the way one of them had already hinted at it, and it made her hesitate. Her hands tightened around her backpack straps. She could feel her heart thudding in her chest. All she wanted was for her mom to drive in, step out, and end this nightmare. The taller officer took a small step closer. What school do you go to? He asked. Maya gave the name of her school, her voice steady. Got a principal's number? Maybe we can confirm you're supposed to be here. Maya shook her head quickly. She didn't want her principal dragged into this, and she didn't want to create more trouble. My mom will be here soon, she repeated softly. The shorter officer sighed, almost dramatically. You know what this looks like? It looks like you're hiding something. Why else would you make up a story like that? Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to say, because it's the truth, but she had already said it too many times. They weren't listening. They weren't trying to believe her. A couple of people walking by glanced at the scene. Some slowed down, curious about what was happening. Maya could feel their eyes on her, and it made her cheeks grow even hotter. She wished they would just keep walking, but instead, a few lingered, whispering to one another. The taller officer turned to his partner. Maybe we should take her down to the station. Let her mom pick her up from there. At least then we'd know she's not just making things up. Maya's eyes widened in alarm. No. Please don't do that. I didn't do anything wrong. My mom is really coming. She's a general. I'm telling the truth. Her words came out rushed, almost desperate, but the officers only exchanged skeptical looks. To them, it was just more of her story. The shorter officer leaned closer, lowering his voice as if trying to reason with her. Kid, listen. You don't have to lie. Nobody's gonna believe you anyway. Just tell us the truth. Your mom's probably a teacher, or maybe works in an office. There's no shame in that. Maya's fists clenched at her sides. I'm not lying, she repeated, more firmly this time. She could feel tears stinging the back of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She didn't want them to see her cry. The officers looked at her, one with annoyance, the other with disbelief. It was as though every word she said made them more certain she wasn't telling the truth. Minutes dragged by like hours. Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't dare reach for it. She knew if she pulled it out, they'd accuse her of wasting time. So she stood still, silent now, with only the sound of her pounding heart filling her ears. The taller officer sighed. All right, here's what's gonna happen. If your mom doesn't show up in the next few minutes, we're taking you in. Can't have you standing here telling stories. Maya's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to argue, to beg them to wait longer, but the words stuck in her throat. All she could do was look toward the road again, hoping against hope to see the SUV coming. The shorter officer leaned back against the car again, his smirk never fading. Man, I've heard some excuses before, but this one takes the cake. A general mom. Imagine that. The taller one chuckled lightly, though his eyes stayed fixed on Maya. Yeah. Kids got quite an imagination. Their voices blurred together, their laughter blending with the noise of the plaza. To Maya, it felt like a storm inside her chest, a mix of anger, fear, and helplessness. She had never felt so unseen, so dismissed. She kept repeating to herself, silently this time, she's coming. She's really coming. Just wait. The officers, however, didn't seem willing to give her that chance. Their patience was running thin, and Maya knew she was running out of time. Still, even with her heart pounding, she stood tall. She refused to back down from the truth, even if no one believed her. The air around the shopping plaza felt heavy, as though time had slowed down. Maya's eyes darted back and forth between the officers and the road, but no familiar SUV appeared. Her pulse quickened as she realized the officers were growing impatient. Every second that passed seemed to make them more certain she was lying. The taller officer shifted his weight and crossed his arms. All right, he said firmly, we've waited long enough. If your mom's really on her way, she should have been here by now. Maya's chest tightened. She is coming. Please, just wait a little longer, she begged, her voice trembling but determined. The shorter officer let out a small laugh, shaking his head. Kid, you've had your fun. Let's not waste any more time. Come on, we'll head to the station. Your mom can meet us there. Maya's heart sank. The idea of being taken away, as though she had done something wrong, terrified her. She hadn't broken any rules. She hadn't lied. All she had done was tell the truth. Yet here she was, treated like a troublemaker. She stepped back slightly, her voice stronger this time. No. I'm not going anywhere. My mom told me to wait here, and that's what I'm going to do. The officers exchanged a look, one raising his eyebrows at the other. To them, she was just being defiant. But to Maya, it was about holding her ground. The taller officer sighed loudly, clearly losing patience. Listen. You can make this easy, or you can make it hard. But if you don't come with us, we'll have to take you in ourselves. Maya felt her hands tremble, but she quickly shoved them into her pockets to hide it. Around her, more bystanders had begun to notice the scene. A couple standing near the entrance of the plaza whispered to each other, their eyes shifting between the officers and the girl. A man carrying grocery bags paused for a moment, frowning as he watched. Maya could feel the heat of their stares, but instead of shrinking, she lifted her chin slightly. Her mom had always told her to stand tall, no matter the situation. That advice echoed in her mind now. I'm not lying, she said again, her voice steady even though her insides quaked. My mom is a general. She's on her way. You'll see. The shorter officer let out a mocking sigh, placing his hands on his hips. You just won't give it up, will you? The taller one shook his head. Some kids just don't know when to stop. Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket again. She wanted desperately to check it. It was probably her mom letting her know she was close, but she didn't move. She knew the officers would accuse her of stalling or making excuses. Instead, she stared down at the ground, trying to hold back the wave of frustration building inside her. The tension grew thicker by the minute. The officers had stopped laughing now, but their disbelief hadn't faded. Their eyes carried a mixture of irritation and condescension, as though they were dealing with a stubborn child who refused to admit she was caught in a lie. The taller officer finally spoke again, his tone sharper. All right. Last chance. Are you coming with us, or do we have to make you? Maya looked up at him, her dark eyes filled with both fear and determination. I'm not going with you. My mom told me to wait here, and I trust her. She'll be here. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the shorter officer let out a small chuckle, shaking his head in disbelief. This is ridiculous. I don't know if I should be annoyed or impressed by your story. A young woman who had been standing nearby finally stepped forward. She had been watching quietly, but now she frowned at the officers. Is there a problem here? She asked, her tone cautious but firm. The taller officer glanced at her briefly. Just making sure this young lady isn't causing trouble. Trouble, the woman repeated, glancing at Maya. The girl's face was tense but calm, her backpack hanging loosely from her shoulders. She doesn't look like she's causing trouble to me. The officers didn't respond. Instead, they shifted uncomfortably under the woman's stare. But the moment passed quickly, and she eventually walked off, shaking her head. Maya felt a flicker of relief at the woman's words, but it was short-lived. The officer's attention was back on her, their patience worn thin. The shorter officer stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Maya could hear. Listen, kid. Stories like this don't end well. You're only making things harder for yourself. Maya met his gaze, her own voice firm. I'm telling the truth. And I won't say otherwise. The officer pulled back slightly, his smirk fading. For the first time, he seemed at a loss for words. The taller one, however, shook his head, clearly unconvinced. Fine. We'll give it a few more minutes. But if she doesn't show, you're coming with us. No more excuses. Maya nodded, though inside her nerves were on fire. She glanced again toward the road, silently begging for her mom's SUV to appear. Every sound of an approaching car made her heart skip, only for disappointment to follow when it wasn't the right one. The plaza around them buzzed with normal life, doors opening, voices chattering, cars pulling in and out of parking spaces. Yet for Maya, it all felt distant, muffled by the pounding in her chest. She remembered the nights when her mom would come home late, still in uniform, her shoulders heavy with the weight of responsibility. She remembered the pride she felt when she saw soldiers salute her mom with respect. Those moments were real. They were proof. And Maya held onto them now, like armor against the doubt surrounding her. Her mom had always told her, the truth doesn't need to be dressed up. It stands on its own. That thought gave Maya the strength to hold her ground, even as the officers sighed and muttered to each other in annoyance. The minutes dragged on. The tension didn't fade, it only grew sharper, like the moment before a storm breaks. The officers stood impatiently, Maya stood silently, and the plaza's curious eyes stayed fixed on the unusual standoff. Maya knew it couldn't last much longer. One way or another, something was about to happen. The minutes felt endless to Maya. She stood frozen in place, her eyes fixed on the road, praying for the sight of her mother's familiar SUV. Her heart raced each time headlights appeared, only to sink again when the car passed by without stopping. The officers, meanwhile, grew more restless with every moment. Their mocking tones had quieted, but their suspicion had only deepened. The taller officer finally sighed, rubbing his temples. "That's it," he muttered. "We've wasted enough time. She's coming with us." Maya's stomach dropped. Her legs trembled, but she refused to move. "No," she whispered, then louder, "No. My mom will be here any second. Please just wait." The shorter officer shook his head with disbelief. "Kid, you're really making this harder than it has to be." He started to step toward her, but that was when the sound of a large vehicle caught everyone's attention. From down the road, a sleek black SUV turned into the plaza. Its polished exterior gleamed under the fading light, and the vehicle carried a quiet authority that seemed to draw every eye. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She knew that car. Her chest swelled with relief as the SUV pulled smoothly into a parking spot nearby. The doors opened, and out stepped a tall woman in full military uniform. The glint of metals shone across her chest, and her posture radiated discipline and command. The woman carried herself with a presence that made the plaza fall into silence. Maya's lips curved into a small, proud smile. "That's her," she whispered. The officers turned to look, their mocking expressions fading instantly. Their eyes widened as they recognized the rank displayed on the woman's shoulders, the stars of a major general. General Angela Robinson strode toward them, her boots clicking sharply against the pavement. Her gaze was steady, calm, yet powerful enough to silence anyone in her path. She stopped directly in front of the officers, her daughter standing just behind her, and fixed them with a firm stare. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice steady but carrying unmistakable authority. The plaza seemed to hold its breath. The taller officer straightened awkwardly, his earlier confidence draining away. Ma'am, we were just mocking my daughter," the general interrupted, her tone calm but cutting. The shorter officer shifted uncomfortably, his face pale. "No, ma'am. We were just trying to make sure everything was all right. She said she was waiting for her mother, but you didn't believe her," the general finished for him. She turned slightly, placing a hand on Maya's shoulder, as if to shield her from their doubt. "You didn't believe her because the truth didn't fit your assumptions." Neither officer spoke. Their silence only made the moment heavier. General Robinson stood tall, her uniform impeccable, her presence commanding. She didn't raise her voice, yet each word carried the weight of authority. "This young lady told you the truth. You chose to laugh. You chose to mock. And in doing so, you disrespected not only her but the values you swore to uphold. Maya stood silently, her heart swelling with pride. She had known her mom was strong, but seeing her in action, seeing the way her calm voice reduced the officers to silence, was something else entirely. The taller officer cleared his throat, his face red. We didn't mean any harm, General. Just thought maybe she was exaggerating. Kids sometimes. His words trailed off as he realized how weak they sounded. General Robinson's gaze never wavered. Respect should never depend on your assumptions. It should be given freely, especially to a child who has done nothing wrong. The shorter officer shuffled his feet, avoiding her eyes. The plaza's bystanders, who had been pretending not to watch, now stared openly. Some even pulled out their phones, clearly recording what was happening. Maya felt a rush of validation. The very people who had doubted her were now witnessing the truth. Her mom was here, in full uniform, standing tall before everyone. General Robinson finally looked down at Maya, her expression softening. "Are you all right?" she asked. Maya nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am," she whispered, though her voice shook with emotion. Her mom gave her a small smile before turning her attention back to the officers. "I trust this won't happen again," she said firmly. The taller officer shook his head quickly. "No, General. Absolutely not. We apologize." "Truly." The shorter one echoed him, stumbling over his words. "Yes, ma'am. We didn't mean any disrespect. We're sorry." Their earlier mocking tones were gone, replaced by nervous stammering. They looked nothing like the confident men who had laughed at Maya minutes before. Now, they seemed small, humbled under the weight of the general's steady gaze. General Robinson gave a curt nod. "Good. Then let this be a lesson. Do not assume. Do not dismiss someone's truth because it doesn't fit your expectations. That is not what your badge represents." The officers nodded quickly, their faces flushed with embarrassment. Around them, the crowd of bystanders began to murmur, some whispering words of support, others shaking their heads at the officers. Maya felt her heart settle for the first time that evening. The storm inside her chest began to calm. She had endured their disbelief, their mockery, and now, at last, the truth had arrived to stand by her side. Her mother placed a gentle hand on her shoulder again. "Come on, Maya. Let's go home." Together, they turned toward the SUV. Maya climbed inside, her backpack still slung over her shoulder, while her mom walked around to the driver's side. Before she got in, General Robinson cast one final glance at the officers. It wasn't a glare, but a silent reminder, a reminder that respect was not optional. The officers stood awkwardly by their patrol car, unable to meet her gaze. As the SUV pulled away, Maya leaned against the seat, a wave of relief washing over her. She glanced at her mom, who focused on the road ahead, her face calm and steady. For Maya, it wasn't just about being proven right. It was about seeing her mother walk in, strong and unshakable, and knowing that no matter how much others doubted her, she carried her mom's strength within her. And as the plaza faded into the distance, Maya knew this was a moment she would never forget. The hum of the SUV filled the silence as it pulled away from the plaza. Maya leaned back into the seat, her backpack resting on her lap. Her hands were still trembling, though the tightness in her chest was slowly loosening. She glanced at her mom, who sat behind the wheel, her posture upright and steady as always. General Robinson's face was calm, but her sharp eyes stayed focused on the road ahead. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Maya's mind replayed everything that had just happened: the officers' mocking laughter, the way people stared, the heat of embarrassment burning her cheeks, and finally the relief when her mom appeared. It felt like a storm had passed, leaving her drained yet oddly stronger. Finally, Maya whispered, "They didn't believe me." Her mother's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "I know, she replied in her calm, steady tone. I saw enough to understand. Maya bit her lip, staring out the window at the fading light. They laughed at me. Like I was just making it up. Like I couldn't possibly be telling the truth. Her voice cracked, but she quickly wiped her eyes before the tears could fall. Her mother glanced at her briefly, her expression softening. And yet you told the truth anyway. Maya turned to look at her mom, confused. But it didn't matter. They didn't listen. It mattered, General Robinson said firmly. The truth always matters, even when others refuse to hear it. You stood your ground. That takes courage. Maya's heart swelled at her mother's words. She wanted to believe it, but part of her still felt small, still felt the sting of being mocked in public. It hurt. Everyone looking at me like I was lying. Even when I said it again and again. Her mom nodded, her eyes still on the road. People will doubt you, Maya. Sometimes because of your age. Sometimes because of the color of your skin. Sometimes because the truth you speak doesn't fit what they expect. But none of that changes what's real. You spoke the truth, and in the end, it revealed itself. Maya stayed quiet, letting her mother's words sink in. She thought about the way the officers' faces had changed when her mom stepped out of the car. The disbelief that had turned into shock, the mockery that had melted into silence. She thought about how strong her mother looked in uniform, medals gleaming under the plaza lights. In that moment, Maya had felt a pride so deep it erased the sting of being doubted. Mom, she said softly. Yes, Maya. Were you mad? At them, I mean. Her mother let out a small breath, almost like a sigh. I wasn't angry in the way you might think. I was disappointed. Disappointed that men entrusted with responsibility chose mockery over respect. Disappointed that they forgot their duty to protect and serve without judgment. She paused before adding, but more than that, I was proud of you. Maya blinked. Proud of me? Why? Because you didn't back down. You didn't change your story just to please them. You didn't let their laughter silence you. That shows strength. That shows you carry the same resilience I've tried to live by. Maya's chest warmed. For a moment, she forgot the embarrassment, the fear, and the frustration. All she felt was pride, her mother's pride in her. The SUV moved steadily along the quiet roads, the sky deepening into shades of purple and gold. Maya rested her head against the window, watching houses and trees blur by. Do you think they'll remember what happened? She asked. Her mom's voice was calm but thoughtful. I think they will. It's not every day someone gets reminded that respect isn't optional. Whether they admit it or not, that moment will stay with them. And maybe next time, they'll think twice before dismissing someone's truth. Maya nodded slowly. The thought brought her a small sense of comfort. She didn't know if the officers would truly change, but she liked to believe her mom's words had left an impression. As they drove on, the weight of the evening began to lift. The fear was gone, replaced by a quiet determination inside her. She realized something important, that even though the world might doubt her, she had the strength to hold on to the truth. Her mom's voice broke the silence again. Do you know what being a general means, Maya? Maya thought for a moment. It means leading people. Making decisions. Protecting the country. Her mom nodded. Yes. But it's more than that. It means carrying responsibility, not just for myself, but for those who look up to me. It means showing strength even when I'm tired. It means standing tall when others doubt me. And tonight, you showed me you already understand that. You showed me you can carry yourself with the same strength. Maya's eyes widened slightly. Me? But I was scared. Her mom smiled gently. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about standing firm even when you are. That's what you did. Maya let the words sink in. For the first time that evening, she felt not just relief but also pride in herself. The car ride grew quiet again, but it was a peaceful silence now. Maya leaned back, feeling safe. She glanced at her mom, her heart swelling with admiration. When they finally pulled into their driveway, the porch light glowing softly against the night, Maya gathered her things and followed her mom inside. The house felt warm and comforting, a stark contrast to the cold tension of the plaza. As they set down their bags, Maya turned to her mom and asked softly, "Will I ever be as strong as you?" Her mom knelt down, placing her hands gently on Maya's shoulders. "You already are. Strength isn't just about wearing stars on your uniform. It's about speaking the truth, standing your ground, and holding onto your dignity no matter how others treat you. Tonight, you showed that strength." Maya's eyes welled with tears, but this time they weren't from embarrassment. They were from pride, from love, from the deep comfort of knowing she had done something right. Her mom pulled her into a hug, and Maya buried her face against her uniform, breathing in the familiar scent of home mixed with the crispness of the fabric. In that moment, Maya realized something she would carry with her for the rest of her life. No matter how much people doubted her, no matter how loudly they laughed, she had the power to stand tall. She had her mother's strength inside her, and that was something no one could take away. The world outside might still question, mock, or disbelieve. But Maya knew now that the truth would always shine through, sometimes immediately, sometimes after a struggle, but it would always win. As she got ready for bed later that night, she thought back to the plaza one last time. She remembered the officers' laughter, the whispers of the crowd, the fear she felt. But above all, she remembered the moment her mom walked in, uniform shining, presence unshakable. That was the moment everything changed. And as Maya drifted off to sleep, she carried a new certainty in her heart: the next time someone doubted her, she wouldn't feel small. She wouldn't feel powerless. She would remember who she was, and who her mother was, and she would stand tall. Because the truth was on her side, and the truth was stronger than any doubt.